Ready for launch. FTS.
FTS go.
Props go. AVI.
AVI's go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening and welcome to our live coverage of the SXM-11 mission for our customer, SiriusXM. Falcon 9 is currently awaiting liftoff from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, with launch scheduled for 10:25 p.m. Eastern Time. Hello everyone, my name is Tucker Spencer Wallace, and I'm a senior Starlink engineer here at SpaceX. Thank you for joining us for SpaceX's 77th launch of the year. For this mission, we are delivering SXM-11 to orbit, the most powerful, high-powered satellite to join SiriusXM's fleet. The extra power provided by SXM-11 will improve signal reception, expand Alaska coverage, and increase reliable delivery of SiriusXM's audio entertainment and information services to consumers in the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean. This SXM satellite enhances connectivity by carrying an additional communications payload capable of delivering expanded WCS band wireless coverage to public safety users across the continental United States. The delivery of SXM-11 and SXM-12, which is scheduled to launch in 2027, will bring the number of intuitive machines-built spacecraft for SiriusXM to 13. SpaceX has been privileged to launch a number of satellites for SiriusXM, most recently SXM-10 in June of last year. And now, SXM-11 is just T-minus 7.5 minutes from liftoff. SpaceX teams are tracking no issues, and for weather, there's currently a 20% probability of violation. If we are unable to launch today, a backup opportunity is available tomorrow, June 29th, at 10:25 p.m. Eastern Time. While the countdown continues, let's meet Falcon 9. The Falcon 9 rocket supporting today's mission is a two-stage rocket, designed for the reliable and safe transportation of satellites, cargo, and people. Comprising the top portion of the rocket is the payload fairing. The fairing is a two-part, 43-foot-tall carbon composite shell that shields the payload from aerodynamic effects until the vehicle is outside Earth's atmosphere. The shape of the fairing helps to reduce drag during flight, contributing to Falcon 9's overall efficiency and allowing it to bring more mass to orbit. And inside the fairing, of course, is today's SXM-11 payload. Here it is during INCAP earlier this week. Once outside the atmosphere, the two fairing halves separate and fall back to Earth, parachuting to a splashdown in the ocean, after which they will be retrieved.
RP1 load is complete.
There you heard the call out that RP1 load is complete on stage 1. These fairing halves, after parachuting to a splashdown in the ocean, will be retrieved by a recovery vessel for refurbishment and reuse on future flights. Both halves of the fairing are flight proven, with one side flying for its 30th time and the other for its 6th. If recovery goes to plan, the fairings will be pulled from the ocean and prepped to fly again. Below the fairing is Falcon 9's second stage, which features a single Merlin engine, or MVAC engine. The MVAC engine features an extended nozzle, designed for increased performance in the vacuum of space. The MVAC engine produces just over 220,000 pounds of thrust at full power. Below the second stage is the inner stage, a black carbon fiber protective housing for the MVAC engine. The inner stage also contains stage separation hardware and grid fin actuators. Below that, we have the first stage, or booster, which will be fully loaded with about 1 million pounds of liquid oxygen and RP1 rocket-grade kerosene. The first stage makes up the bottom two-thirds of the vehicle and has 9 Merlin M1D engines at the bottom, which generate more than 1.7 million pounds of thrust at sea level. That's 190,000 pounds of thrust per engine. The booster supporting today's mission will be making its 17th flight today. It previously launched NASA's Crew 9 mission to the International Space Station.
Falcon 9 is
RRT-1,
pressing for the start of Strongback retract.
as you heard there, we will be moving into Strongback retract quite shortly. As we move into Strongback retract, the clamp arms around the second stage will detach, leaving the rocket attached only at the launch mount at the base. These clamps help to stabilize the second stage during propellant loading and prevent movement in high winds.
Strongback retract has started.
Once the clamp arms are open, the Strongback will begin to pivot away from the rocket. It'll reach full recline at T-minus 3 minutes and 40 seconds. The Strongback is one component of the transport erector, or TE, which comprises the Strongback and launch mount at the base of the rocket. The TE is responsible for supporting the rocket during payload integration, transporting the rocket from the hangar to the pad, and lifting the rocket into the vertical launch configuration. The TE also houses the ground support equipment that supplies fuel, oxidizer, gases, power, and communications to the rocket prior to launch. The rocket is connected to the TE via a series of quick disconnects, or QDs, to the first and second stages of Falcon 9. You can now see on your screen the Strongback is beginning to retract. The booster supporting today's mission previously launched NASA's Crew 9 mission to the International Space Station, RRT-1, Firefly Blue Ghost Mission 1, FROM-2, SXM-10, MTG-S1, EchoStar 25, and 9 Starlink missions. And there you can see the Strongback has fully reclined. At this point in the countdown, both stages are fully loaded with rocket propellant 1.
Stage 1 LOX load is complete.
As you just heard, there's confirmation that Stage 1 liquid oxygen loading has completed. The second stage will finish up in just under a minute. In these last few minutes, Falcon 9 is performing final health checks on its primary communications, avionics, and propulsion systems in preparation for flight. In addition to RP-1 and liquid oxygen, cryogenic helium is loaded onto Falcon 9. Falcon 9's tanks are pressurized using chilled helium to remain compatible with the cryogenic plumbing. During flight, that pressurization helps to force propellant into the engines as the tanks empty. Both the RP-1 and LOX being loaded on today's Falcon 9 are pre-chilled to 300 degrees Fahrenheit below zero to increase the density of both and increase the total energy stored on Falcon 9. You may hear callouts that engines have been chilled closer to liftoff. This is to prevent...
Stage 2 LOX load is complete.
And there we heard the call out that liquid oxygen for the second stage is fully loaded. Falcon 9 is now loaded with over 1 million pounds of RP-1 and liquid oxygen. Before any of this supercooled liquid is flowed through the plumbing, the components are chilled to prevent thermal shock. As you can see on your screen, Falcon 9 is now venting and closing its gaseous systems. This includes topping off tanks and sealing vents to maintain pressure.
Ground gas closeouts.
And there's the call out. Again, this is to seal vents and maintain pressure prior to launch. As you can see, there are white clouds of condensation forming as the gaseous systems are vented. Coming up in just a few seconds, we should hear the call out for entering startup.
Falcon 9 has entered startup.
And there was that call out. The autonomous flight computers have taken over the count, and both Falcon stages are pressurizing for launch. We're just waiting for our launch director to give the final go for tonight's mission.
Launch director, go for launch.
Great news. LD is go for launch, so let's sit back and watch as Falcon 9 prepares for liftoff. At T-minus 35 seconds, all systems are go.
T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 15 seconds. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition, and liftoff. Go Falcon, go Sirius XM-11.
Vehicle is pitching downrange.
M1D chamber pressures are nominal.
At T plus 30 seconds into flight, Falcon 9 has successfully lifted off from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. We're currently throttling down in preparation for max Q, the point of maximum aerodynamic stress on the vehicle.
Power and telemetry nominal.
Prior to max Q, the aerodynamic stress on the vehicle is increasing due to the increase in velocity being greater than the decrease due to dropping atmospheric pressure.
Falcon 9 is supersonic.
We should hear that call out for max Q in just about 10 seconds.
Max Q.
After max Q, the aerodynamic stress on the vehicle begins decreasing as the atmospheric density is dropping faster than the velocity is increasing. This happens as the vehicle transits from Earth's atmosphere to the vacuum of space. Falcon 9 will now throttle the M1D engines back to full power as it continues its path to orbit.
MVAC chill has started.
Now we have several events coming up in quick succession, starting with MECO, followed by stage separation and second engine start, or SES-1. You just heard the call out for engine chill on that MVAC engine. Main engine cutoff, or MECO, is where all 9 Merlin 1D engines shut down to slow the vehicle down in preparation for stage separation. Then, the MVAC engine on the second stage will light, which is called out as second engine start 1, or SES-1. This engine burn, lasting several minutes, will propel the second stage and our payload to orbit. After that, the fairing will jettison from the second stage, as it's no longer needed to protect the payloads once we're in space. We should hear the first of these callouts, MECO, in just a few seconds.
Main engine cutoff. Stage separation confirmed. MVAC startup.
And confirmation of all 3 events that happened back to back there, main engine cutoff, stage separation, and second engine start 1. Coming up next will be fairing separation. Again, we jettison the payload fairing halves now that they're no longer needed in the vacuum of space, and we will be attempting to retrieve them once they fall back to Earth. Both halves of the fairing today are flight proven, with one half flying for its 30th and the other for its 6th time.
Both vehicles are on nominal trajectories.
Fairing separation confirmed.
And there we just heard confirmation of fairing separation, along with a great view of those 2 halves separating from the vehicle. As a reminder, those fairings will make their way back to Earth for recovery. The next major milestone coming up is the entry burn on our Falcon 9 first stage, which is scheduled to occur at the 6-minute and 9-second mark. This entry burn is used to slow down the first stage as it heads towards our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, in the Atlantic Ocean. Without the entry burn, we'd only be using atmospheric drag to slow down Falcon 9 as it re-enters the atmosphere, which would add extra stress to the vehicle. Following the entry burn, the booster will initiate the landing burn, slowing itself for a precise touchdown on our drone ship. While in the vacuum of space, Falcon 9 uses cold nitrogen gas thrusters for attitude control. Once Falcon 9 enters the atmosphere, the 4 hypersonic grid fins positioned near the top of the first stage will help it steer as it returns to Earth. Enabled by Falcon 9's reusability, the booster supporting this mission is flying for its 17th time, having previously supported NASA's Crew 9 mission to the International Space Station, RRT-1, Firefly Blue Ghost Mission 1, FROM-2, SXM-10, MTGS-1, EchoStar 25, and 9 Starlink missions. If you're just joining us, we had an on-time liftoff today at 10:25 p.m. Eastern Time from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Space Launch Complex 40. And coming up in just under a minute, we will be having the entry burn for the Falcon 9 first stage. Beautiful views on the screen right now of the MVAC engine on our second stage as it propels our payload, SXM-11, to orbit.
Stage 1 engine burn startup.
There's the call out for entry burn startup on the
Stage
Falcon
1
9.
FTS safe.
On the Falcon 9 first stage. This burn will last almost 30 seconds, slowing down the vehicle in preparation for its final burn and landing. You should see the graphics on the bottom left of the screen lighting up.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
And that concludes the booster's entry burn. As I mentioned earlier, we will be attempting to retrieve this booster with our drone ship, a Shortfall of Gravitas, currently stationed in the Atlantic Ocean. The next milestone, coming up in just over a minute, will be second engine cutoff, or SECO-1, indicating shutdown of the MVAC engine on the second stage. That'll be followed quickly by the landing burn on the first stage booster. When that begins, you can follow along with the burn via the engine graphics at the bottom of your screen. As the burn happens, you'll see a drastic decrease in the speed and altitude of the vehicle.
Stage 2 is in terminal guidance.
Coming up after this
Stage
next...
2 FTS safe.
Coming up next after SECO-1
Stage 1 transonic.
and the landing burn will be a coast phase for the second stage. All right, we should be expecting these callouts coming up in just a few seconds. Stay tuned.
Stage 1 landing burn.
MVAC shutdown.
And there's confirmation of the shutdown of the MVAC engine and landing burn startup on Falcon 9. Again, this is the final burn that this booster will execute, leading up to landing.
Nominal orbit insertion.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
Great news on all fronts. We had the confirmation of good orbit of our second stage and landing of our first stage. As a reminder, this booster flew for its 17th time today. Now, while the booster has completed its part of the mission, the second stage is continuing its mission to deploy the SXM-11 payload, which is expected at T plus 34 minutes and 34 seconds. Before that, the MVAC engine on the second stage will execute a second burn, which will start at T plus 25 minutes and 49 seconds. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back for that next burn in about 15 minutes. Welcome back to our live coverage of the SXM-11 mission. It's been a great launch and overall mission so far. We had an on-time liftoff at 10:25 p.m. Eastern Time and recovered the first stage following its 17th launch and landing. The MVAC engine on the second stage ignited a couple minutes after liftoff, also known as Second Engine Start 1 or SES-1. That engine burn lasted about 6 minutes, propelling the second stage and payload to orbit. Coming up next, the Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage will execute a second burn to propel the vehicle to its target injection orbit. This should be expected in just a few seconds. This next burn will last 53 seconds.
MVAC startup.
And there's confirmation of Second Engine Start 2. This MVAC burn will last 53 seconds. For this mission, we are delivering SXM-11 to orbit, the most powerful, high-powered satellite to join SiriusXM's fleet. The extra power provided by SXM-11 will improve signal reception, expand Alaska coverage, and increase reliable delivery of SiriusXM's audio entertainment and information services to consumers in the United States, Canada, and the Caribbean.
MVAC shutdown.
And there's confirmation of MVAC shutdown, or second engine cut off 2.
Nominal second orbit insertion.
And there's that confirmation of good orbit. With that, our next and most important milestone, payload deploy, is just coming up at about T plus 34.5 minutes. So we'll take another short break and see you back here in about 6 minutes. And we're back. If you're just joining us, we are nearing the end of our mission today, delivering SXM-11 to orbit, the most powerful, high-powered satellite to join SiriusXM's fleet. SpaceX previously launched a number of satellites for SiriusXM, most recently SXM-10 in June of last year. Before the break, the Merlin vacuum engine on Falcon 9's second stage performed a second burn to get the vehicle into its proper injection orbit. That burn lasted just 53 seconds before the second coast phase. We have payload deployment coming up here at T plus 34 minutes and 34 seconds, just under a minute away. The SXM-11 satellite will enhance connectivity by carrying an additional communications payload capable of delivering expanded WCS band wireless coverage to public safety users across the continental United States. And there you can see a beautiful view of the SXM-11 satellite awaiting deployment in just under 30 seconds.
SXM-11 satellite deploy confirmed.
Incredible live view of SXM-11 separating from Falcon 9's second stage. And that'll bring us to the end of our live mission coverage. We'd like to thank SiriusXM for once again entrusting us with their satellite today. We'd also like to thank the FAA and the Eastern Range for their support of today's mission. Be sure to check spacex.com/launches for the most up-to-date information on upcoming launches, and follow us at SpaceX on X. See you next time.